Hi guys, and welcome to another team review episode. So we haven't had one of these in quite a little while, so I thought I'd kind of save this up for after the International Challenge. This is the team that I ran in the International Challenge, and I featured a little bit on the channel this past week. It took me a little bit of time to kind of build and prepare the team, but it's definitely something I really have enjoyed using and running on the channel. I didn't have the best run in the International Challenge, but there was a few things that team matchups that we didn't think about when building the team that we faced, and there's certain win conditions against that sort of team archetype, but we didn't manage to get them off every time, and then we had a few issues with internet connections, disconnects and stuff like that didn't really help. So we didn't have the best finish in the International Challenge, but I don't think we did too bad a job, and the team is, I really like it, and I think it's got legs, but there is a lot of improvement to make in it. But hopefully what I'm kind of trying to do today, guys, is just show you how I've put the team together, where I got inspiration from for certain things, and how I kind of ended up with a finished product. And then at the end I'll just go over a few things that I might look to change if I was going to take this team and keep on using it and just look at tweaking little bits and bobs with it. So we'll start with the team overview. So the team is Arcanine. As you all know, if you've watched the episodes, you'll know the team, but we'll just go over it for those of you who haven't seen any of the episodes. So we've got Arcanine, we've got Garchomp, Gigalith, Porygon 2, Tapu Lele, and Celesteela. So basically, the team kind of concept started with Tapu Lele. It was one of the Tapus that I haven't really used too much this season, and I've attempted to use a few times, but just couldn't kind of get the right balance with it. It's a difficult Pokemon, I think, to use in this format, for a couple of reasons. It's got very good special defense, and it's got extremely good special attack, but its speed tier isn't the best. 95 base speed isn't ideal, and its defense, its physical defense side and its HP stat aren't the best. So you're not looking at something like when you compare it to Tapu Fini, who is extremely defensively built. It's kind of in the middle between everything, and probably one of the weaker Tapus out of all of them, but obviously very strong offensively. So it's quite hard to find a balance. And when I was initially doing EV spreads and things with it, and just seeing what calculations I could survive, what threatened it, what I could kill, I realised that the one thing Tapu Lele 100% needs is Intimidate support. So Tapu Lele has a very common partner in the metagame. A lot of players have been using it, and it was something I looked at very early on in the metagame, but never really kind of jumped onto, and that was Tapu Lele and Arcanine. So Arcanine supports Tapu Lele really well. If you think about Tapu Lele's biggest weaknesses in Steel, Arcanine helps cover against that. Poison, normally a physical type attacker, so Arcanine again covers against that. And Ghost type is the only other thing that you're kind of not covering with Arcanine there. So the one thing that we kind of did pick up on, myself anyway, was I definitely needed Intimidate support. So I was going to pick up with Arcanine, so that's kind of led to Arcanine. And then the other members of the team, I knew I wanted to kind of use Garchomp. Garchomp is such a good Pokemon in this format, and you really need, I feel like you need, it's kind of a necessity to kind of have a ground type Pokemon in your team because of how popular Tapu Koko is. You've got your poison type Pokemon that really threaten Tapu Lele, so you need something to be able to take care of them. Things like Muck. You've got Xurkitree that's kind of starting to creep up in popularity that you need an answer for. And Garchomp just all round gives you that electric type resistance. It offers that ground stab. And it's just an all round very good Pokemon. So I included Garchomp in there. And the kind of original four kind of rounded up with Celesteela. So I needed something that I could switch in for Arcanine for ground type attacks that were potentially coming out onto it. So I needed something that was a flying type or something with levitate. And I also needed something that I could sit next to Garchomp and freely Earthquake with. Going back to Tapu Lele again, it is weak to obviously poison and steel type attacks primarily. And something that resists both of those is Celesteela. So Celesteela acts very nicely in this little core 4 as like a defensive pivot, and it also offers an option to, like, it's almost like a get out card with Leech Seed, because you can stall out with the Leech Seed and the Recover. As we saw very early in the metagame this season, you had Substitute on Celesteela. So a lot of situations, what would normally be unwinnable positions, if you could get a Substitute up and a Leech Seed off onto your opponent, you could kind of stall your way out of that unwinnable situation and make it a winnable situation. So Celesteela is a very good Pokemon if you can play it right, get the Leech Seeds up and kind of stall your opponent out that way. Not only with the Leech Seed kind of stalling out, you can also kind of, with the Leech Seed, set Leech Seeds up on your opponent's Pokemon and then switch in your own Pokemon on the Celesteela slot. For instance, if I suspected, like, just say for instance I had a Leech Seed out on my opponent's opposing Arcanine, so I'd got the Leech Seed off onto it, and then this next turn I'm heavily threatened by a Flare Blitz from that Arcanine. Now I have my Arcanine in the back that I can potentially bring in, get an Intimidate off if necessary onto my opponent's Pokemon, and also take Leech Seed recovery on that Celesteela slot that I've switched in for the Arcanine. So in a roundabout way, I can set up Leech Seeds with Celesteela as well, and it'll help recover the rest of my Pokemon. So you can play it like that as well. So I really felt Celesteela would be a very key member of the team. It's still very good in the metagame, but one thing I did think about changing with Celesteela was the Substitute. So I kind of, we'll go into the moveset a bit later, but that was that. And then the other thing, after I had those 4 Pokemon, I kind of looked at what I had there, and I had no speed control at all. Now there could be options to put Bulldoze on Arcanine, but then again it's quite a linear method of speed control, and I wanted to put some additions in there that really give the team some solidarity and some good options to kind of create win conditions to a certain extent. So I'd say probably the best Trick Room setter in the metagame, one of the best Pokemons in this metagame, is Porygon 2. So I opted for Porygon 2. I hadn't used it this season at all, and that's just a thing. I don't know why I haven't used it this season, and I'm kind of kicking myself after using it, because you kind of, you know in your head that it's literally one of the best Pokemon, but then again you haven't. I always find myself, you know, I kind of try other things and try other like Pokemon and other strategies and stuff, and kind of shy away from the more standard stuff. But the thing is, with the very, very popular Pokemon, like if you look at the team already, I've got Arcanine and Garchomp. They're on the Battle Spot ladder and the ratings, they're like the 2 top most used Pokemon. So I'm not shying away from standards at all in this team, and I thought, why should I shy away with using one of the best speed control methods that we've got in this metagame? So that's why I opted for Porygon 2 here. Gives me a really good option of speed control with the Trick Room. It's got recovery, so I can again stall out my opponents if they haven't got recovery. I've always got that option, and it just gives Porygon the longevity, stick around on the field, be able to get numerous Trick Rooms up if it needs to. And I opted, you know, for the attacking moves on it. I could have went Tri-Attack, I could have went Return. We've seen Return being used very well recently, because a lot of players are tending to EV their Pokemon, not to give Porygon 2 the special attack boost, so you're kind of more likely to get an attack boost here. So going with the Return kind of puts you in favour for the attack boost rather than the special attack boost. And there's other options like Shadow Ball and things to cover for Marowaks and stuff like that. But I opted for Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, so the Bolt Beam combination, because outside of the other Pokemon that I've got, I don't have any electric type stabs. Now I could have put an electric type stab on my Tapu Lele, but I opted not to. We'll go into the moveset again in a little bit. But with Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, it gives me pretty much complete coverage against the majority of the metagame, excluding like Marowak. And because I had Porygon 2 in there, I needed something that I could kind of really take advantage of my Trick Room turns with. I also had outlined that I needed a weather condition as well, so that's how Gigalith kind of fit into the team. I wanted to make sure in the team overall that I had Intimidate, I had a Tapu in there, and I had weather in there, so and speed control. So they were the four kind of main things that I kind of picked up on to start with, and I wanted to include in the team. So we have Tapu Lele's, that Tapu, we have Intimidate with the Arcanine, we have the weather with the Gigalith, and then we have the speed control with the Porygon 2. So I'm kind of covering all my bases there with the four things that I wanted to include in the team. And Gigalith, being my Trick Room abuser, is one of the best Trick Room abusers in the metagame. It's one of the slowest Pokemon in the format. And it offers really good stab attacks with its rock type moves. It's got very good move pool. So you can see here I opted for Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Heavy Slam. We'll go into the moveset a bit later because this is one of the Pokemon that I would, going forward, I would change because it was different from when I first originally used Gigalith. I changed to this moveset, and I think I would probably go back to what I was using originally. But regardless of that, in a Trick Room, if I can guarantee a Trick Room up, Arachnid, I can't say it, and everyone knows this. So the Water Spider, the Water Bug type, if we're in a Trick Room, I'm always going to underspeed it, and I threaten it very heavily with the Stone Edge, so, and I can pick up a KO with the Rocky MZ, so the Continental Crush as well. I put a lot of pressure on to Vikavolt as well, and many other threats like Marowak and things and other things that I can't necessarily hit with other Pokemon. So it gives me a wide variety of coverage there. It also allows me to set the weather up. So against Torkoal teams, I don't really need to worry because Torkoal is going to be, I'll be able to switch it in on a Torkoal Eruption, take minimal damage, get the Sandstorm up. Again, with Rain, I'm quite happy to lead with it if I feel necessary. And it kind of puts my opponent off. If they've got Pelipper in their team, it puts my opponent off leading with the Pelipper. So I can take advantage of that straight away. Because they don't want to leave Pelipper expecting me to lead Gigalith, because then they're going to have to switch the Pelipper out because I'll get the Sandstorm up, and then it really disrupts their momentum. So they'll tend to keep Pelipper in the back and then, you know, switch it in potentially on a Gigalith lead, which I won't lead with, and keep Gigalith in the back and get the Trick Room up and then keep Gigalith in the back until I've got the Trick Room up and Pelipper's out on the field, and then I can start taking advantage of that. So that's one thing. Other weathers are, especially against Ninetales. So what I would tend to do against Ninetales is, normally first turn, you can kind of expect Ninetales to try and get that Aurora Veil up, depending on the team archetypes. If they haven't got Intimidate, you kind of know that they're kind of going to rely on the Aurora Veil for that additional defensive support. So you can kind of predict that. Like, you can lead whatever you want, keep Gigalith in the back, and expect the Aurora Veil turn 1, where you switch in the Gigalith, and you stop the Aurora Veil, and you also break the Sash on the Ninetales in the process. So it's really nice for that. It's one of the better weathers. I think Gigalith is one of the better weather setters in the format, and that's why I kind of opted for it as well, to take advantage of the Trick Room, and the Continental Crush is just devastating. So that's the team overall. I'll quickly go over the movesets here. So the Arcanine has Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, Snarl, and Protect. Garchomp is Assault Vest, sorry, the item of choice on the Arcanine was the Iapa Berry. The Garchomp is Assault Vest Garchomp with Earthquake, Rock Slide, Fire Fang, and Poison Jab. The Gigalith, we have the Rockium Z with Stone Edge, Earthquake, Protect, and Heavy Slam. Porygon 2 has the Eviolite, which is pretty standard. The Bolt Beam combo in Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Recover, and Trick Room. So there's the speed control and the recovery option there. The Tapu Lele has the Psychium Z with Psychic, Moonblast, Protect, and Taunt. And the Celesteela has Leftovers, standard again, with Heavy Slam, Flamethrower, Protect, and Leech Seed. So before we go into the EV spreads and stuff like that, I'll quickly cover just a few move options and decisions that I made here. So I felt like I definitely needed Taunt in the team. Taunt's such a strong move in this metagame, especially when you have things as popular as Porygon 2, because they rely on, you know, the item of choice. They rely on the Eviolite. So, you know, like for threats like that, you're not having to worry about Mental Herb and things like that you may have to worry about on other Pokemon like Oranguru and Pokemon that could carry the Mental Herb, whereas Porygon 2 is always more than likely going to carry the Eviolite. So for in situations like that, Taunt is very good for shutting down Porygon 2. It's also very good for shutting down things that have seeds like Mandibuzz or berries like Snorlax, so you can always get the Taunt off before they can either Belly Drum, Porygon 2 can Trick Room or Recover. So you're not only stopping the Porygon 2 setting up a Trick Room potentially, but you're stopping it being able to recover off the big damage that you're kind of laying down on it to get rid of it, or you're forcing a switch out, which kind of puts momentum back on your side of the field. So I really felt like Taunt was something I wanted to include in the team, and Tapu Lele seemed a very good user of Taunt, especially when you lead with Arcanine. You've got that option to just fire off a Taunt. You don't have to worry so much because of the Intimidate about being KO'd straight away from threats that you've got on the field. And yeah, it just comes in very handy for that sort of thing. You can shut down Pelipper's because you're going to be outspeeding them before they can get a Tailwind up, and so on and so on. So that was the reason why I obviously got Psychic, because it takes advantage of the Psychic terrain and the Psychium Z, so I can get the Shattered Psyche off, which is just absolutely devastatingly powerful. And the Moonblast there just for the other stab attack, which helps kind of pick up good damage on things like Garchomp, Crocodile, and any fighting type Pokemon that we might see in the metagame that we can't hit with Psychic, but there aren't too many of those. So that was the moveset for Tapu Lele. We'll go on to the Arcanine. So we've got Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, Snarl, and Protect. Arcanine's one of those Pokemon that's really difficult because you could easily give it five moves out of its move pool, 5 or 6 moves out of its move pool. It's difficult to pick exactly the moves that you want to kind of include on there and leave out the ones that you also want to include on there. But I felt really strongly about Protect with Arcanine. Now, I started off in the early part of the metagame using Arcanine, and I never ran Protect on Arcanine. I felt too strongly about having all attacking moves, and I felt like with the Intimidate you didn't need the Protect. But I feel like with how Arcanine's set up in the team and how you kind of want to use Arcanine, especially how I want to use Arcanine within this team, I needed Protect, because Protect gives you an option to shift your board position around, protect the Arcanine, and then shift again. So you've got that ability to kind of stop any attacks coming out onto it, protect it, and then react next turn. And I just felt like that gave me a lot more options, whereas not having Protect, you're very vulnerable to your opponent just picking it off or doubling into it in certain situations that otherwise you would be able to avoid with the Protect. So that was the reason I went for Protect there. Flare Blitz is obviously your big stab damage. It's doing good damage to things like Celesteela, always picking the K up on Kartana, and so on and so on. Snarl gives me nice support for the team overall. It's just a very good move. Spread damage as well, so it's hitting both my opponent's Pokemon, and just makes Arcanine a lot stronger with the Intimidate support stacking with that. So you're reducing the physical attack and the special attack as well. So that was that. And then the fourth move of choice was Will-O-Wisp. And predominantly I chose Will-O-Wisp because of Mucks, really. Because Muck could cause me a lot of problems. It puts a lot of pressure onto my Porygon 2 with the knockoff. It causes a lot of issues for my Tapu Lele with the Poison Jab and so on like that. And I don't run Tectonic Rage on my Garchomp, so I don't have a clear way to just one-shot it. Whereas if I can get a Will-O-Wisp onto it, then I can really shut it down and stop it doing big damage. I can start chipping away at it, and it makes the matchup a lot easier. As well as that, I can also, I've got the, not just for that matchup, but against Snorlax as well. If they start cursing or anything like that, I can not only cycle the Intimidate, or try to, I can get a Will-O-Wisp onto it, and then I've got Celesteela as well that I can kind of stack with that and get a potentially Elite Seed onto it and really start chipping it down and wearing it down that way, as well as the burn damage, reducing its attack power as well. So that was quite nice. You can always maybe catch Garchomps as well, because you know you're always going to survive an Earthquake. If you don't expect a Tectonic Rage, so -1 Garchomp Earthquake is very well. It's never going to KO Arcanine, so you're quite free if you can get the opportunity to Will-O-Wisp a Garchomp, which just helps the rest of the team really do their job. And Arcanine is really there as a support Pokemon. This Arcanine isn't built to be a offensive threat. But with the Flare Blitz, because of its high base power, it can still offer that big damage if you need it to. So that was the Arcanine set. We've got the Garchomp set with Earthquake, Rock Slide, Fire Fang, Poison Jab. Obviously, because we're running the Assault Vest, we can't fit Protect on there. So I felt like, because of all the Tapu Fini that were going around, it didn't really make much sense to run Dragon Claw on Garchomp, and I didn't feel like I was missing out because I've got the Tapu Lele with the Moonblast coverage and the Porygon 2 that does a really good job against the Paws and Dragons in general with the Ice Beam. So I felt more inclined to run Fire Fang. It gives me a better option against Steel-type Pokemon, and Poison Jab as well for the Tapus primarily. And then you've got Earthquake as your main stab attack. It's just a generally brilliant move. And then Rock Slide as well, just to take advantage of, it hits a lot of bug Pokemon for super effective that are getting more popular in the metagame now. And, you know, if you're outspeeding with Garchomp, you've always got the chance to pick up a flinch. No, it's not something that you want to be going for, but it's something that is in the game and you need to think about. So that was there just for coverage, and I like the combination of Rock Slide and Earthquake there. It kind of gives you an option against a lot of Pokemon. So that was that moveset on the Gigalith. We've kind of covered with the Stone Edge, Earthquake, Protect, and Heavy Slam. I went for Stone Edge over Rock Slide. Really, it was all based on the damage calculations that I was getting with the Continental Crush with Stone Edge over Rock Slide. I was just missing out on certain things with Rock Slide, so that pushed me over the edge to really pick Stone Edge over that. Earthquake just gives me nice coverage against Tapu Kokos and etc. and Mucks and things in a Trick Room environment. And Heavy Slam, again, just gives extra coverage against the Tapus and stuff like that. But as I said earlier, I would change this moveset, but we'll go into that a bit later. We've covered the Porygon 2, Tapu Lele, and the Celesteela. So we've got Heavy Slam, Flamethrower, Protect, and Leech Seed. I didn't really opt for the standard set of Substitute, and I changed that for Flamethrower. Gives me a better option against opposing Celesteelas, so I can hit them for super effective damage, and it gives me a very good answer to Kartana. So outside of Arcanine, I don't really need to rely too heavily on Arcanine to deal with Kartana, and Celesteela can switch into pretty much anything Kartana can throw at it, and really any build, of Cortana. Even your Assault Vest's Flamethrower is picking up the KO, so it heavily threatens it, and you're just looking at the sash sets that it won't be able to KO. So that's a quick overview of the team. So if we jump into the damage calculations, I haven't done like I normally do in the videos and do like a gazillion different tabs with all the damage calculations on. I've just got each Pokemon in their separate page, and we'll go through some of the damage calculations as we go through the video. So with Arcanine, I will say now that I was testing Marcus Statler's Lisbon regional team, so Yoshi's team, and the one thing I really loved from Marcus's team was the Arcanine. And like I was saying before, early parts of the metagame, I was using Arcanine without Protect. I wasn't using a very defensively built Arcanine, slightly defensive, but nothing like what Marcus has created on his Lisbon team. And when I was using it, I was like super surprised at some of the calcs it was surviving, and it kind of flicked the switch for me and kind of turned how I was kind of perceiving Arcanine to be used within a match, rather than using it as this offensive threat that can kind of put out intimidates and stuff. It kind of changed my perspective to be like, right, well, Arcanine is a support Pokemon, so let's make it a support Pokemon. And that's exactly what Marcus had done. So I took full inspiration from Marcus's Arcanine. The EV spread that I'm using is slightly different, and Marcus, I think, ran Extreme Speed on his Arcanine, but the Extreme Speed doesn't make much sense in this team because I'm running the Tapu Lele, and the Psychic Terrain really just kind of is counterintuitive to run an Extreme Speed, because there will be situations where I have the Psychic Terrain up and I want to use Extreme Speed, but I can't. So it doesn't really make much sense. So that's why I kind of changed that as well. So I've got the Will-O-Wisp there over the Extreme Speed, and I have slightly tweaked the EV spread, give it a few more speed EVs, reduce the special defense, because I didn't feel as though in this team that I needed as much special defense. I've give Arcanine a bit more attack, a bit more defense investment, and that was about it really. So on the damage calculator here, you've got Figgy Berry, I've got Iapa Berry, but that's the only difference. They do the same thing. So one big calc that I wanted to make sure that we were surviving was obviously an Nihilego Power Gem, and not only just a normal one, but a Life Orb one. So I could sit in front of a Nihilego and they could ping off a Life Orb Power Gem, and I know I would survive, and I know that it would activate the Figgy Berry. So that was one of the big calculations that I wanted to kind of include in this. Another thing I needed to make sure that I was covering, because if you're only using one Tapu, say like for now, I'm using Tapu Lele. Now I can't change the terrain. I have no ability in my team to change the psychic terrain if I'm facing down against another Tapu Lele. So I need to ensure that one thing I am surviving is attacks from opposing Tapu Leles in psychic terrain. So let's have a look at what we're doing here. So we easily survive a modest 252 psychic in a psychic terrain, but I wanted to make sure that I was surviving a Life Orb psychic in the psychic terrain. Now, there is no way that you can calc, I don't think, a Shattered Psyche in a psychic terrain with the Arcanine, or if you can, let's just change this. Yeah, there's no way. So even if you go 252, 252, careful, you're not surviving that at all. So it's unless you're able to change the terrain, obviously. In this case, we can't. So there's no point of over-investing for just the sake of over-investing. We can survive the Psychic normally, so that includes your Scarf, Tapu Leles, and the Life Orb ones, which is more important. So we can make sure we can get the survival on those. So that was one thing that I wanted to do. Tapu Koko was another Pokemon, very popular, that I wanted to make sure that we could handle. So if we can make sure that we've got the Psychic terrain up, Tapu Koko, Life Orb, Thunderbolt is a guaranteed 4-hit kill, and you can reduce that down again by you know, the snarl. If we can guarantee we're going to get one snarl off, that turns into a 5-hit KO. If we get another snarl off, we're going to reduce it even further and even further. So, you know, we've got the options there to do some work and really pressure the Tapu Koko to kind of switch out. Probably will switch out anyway, but, you know, you can take advantage of board positions when you know your opponent's in a situation where they can't really carry on with that Pokemon out in the field because it's not doing enough, and then take advantage when you can kind of predict the switch out. So that was another thing that I wanted to take advantage of. Obviously as well, this isn't a very offensively built Arcanine, but with the Flare Blitz, as long as we're not intimidated, we're still going to be 2-hit KOing the Tapu Koko. So one-on-one, we'd be able to beat it. We just need to make sure that the electric terrain isn't on the field, because if the electric terrain's on the field, it will be picking up the 2-hit KO. And we won't even see the Figgy Berry activated. So that's something you need to keep in mind. But knowing that makes it a lot more manageable. And that's one of the things why I always think going over your damage calculations and knowing your damage calculations is so important when you're going into matches. This is why a lot of people say, play a team you're more comfortable with, because you know your calculations, you know situations when you get into with a team and a certain Pokemon, you know that you can take that attack, or you know that you can pick up a KO in that situation. So that's one of the kind of, you know, avenues that you can go down with this line of thought. Anyway, we've covered the Tapu Koko. So the speed stat on the Arcanine was really just to kind of make sure that I was getting the jump on your average Tapu Finis, really. And you can always tell if you're going to be outspeeding Tapu Fini if your Intimidate activates before their Terrain activates, you're outspeeding it. If their Terrain activates before your Intimidate, they're outspeeding you. So it's a really good speed indicator there with the Intimidate. And generally, if I outsped a Tapu Fini, I'd stay in probably, and I would just snarl. I'd just start snarling, and then, you know, you don't need to concentrate too much. You can concentrate on your partner in Pokemon and what you want to do, and kind of work from there. But as long as you're kind of reducing the attack on the Tapu Fini, you can maybe switch in your Celesteela, get a Leech Seed on it, force it to switch out, and so on and so on. So that is the Arcanine. So if we move on to our Garchomp. Now Garchomp in particular on this team is one of the more positive Pokemon I'm taking away from this team, because I love the Assault Vest Garchomp. I think it's very good, and I think it's got a lot of legs within this metagame. Potentially, I prefer it to the Tectonic Rage. If I'm completely honest with myself, just with how I like to play the game, a lot more board positionally wise, switching in freely and things like that, and not having to worry about things being switched in, taking too much damage, and then being able to be picked off quite easily. So Garchomp fit into this mold of this team very well, especially with the Assault Vest. And I had a few things that I wanted to make sure that I could guarantee that Garchomp was surviving with the Assault Vest to make it worthwhile, and make it more in the mold of this team. So, as you can see on your screen now, Pheromosa Ice Beam, we're easily taking that, and we're easily picking up a KO back with the Fire Fang. So we can quite happily know that we can lead Garchomp in against Pheromosa, and we can take it one-on-one, really. Or at least take it down to its sash for something else to kind of chip away at it later in the game. But besides that, the main thing I wanted to have Garchomp to deal with was Tapu Koko. So, one calculation, I definitely wanted Garchomp to be able to survive was, well, not just survive, but turn a calculation into a 3-hit KO. So, I wanted Dazzling Gleam from a Tapu Koko, Life Orb Tapu Koko, on a double target, obviously, to 3-hit KO. So I can potentially, in this situation, this is the thought process behind this, and this is how, I don't know, you guys might want to take this thought process. If you think it's trash, whatever, that's fair enough, you're entitled to your opinion, but this is my thought process behind why I've calculated it so specifically. So, in this situation, I've got Garchomp in the back, and I need to switch it in I've got my Celesteela out and it's facing down against the Tapu Koko. So the Tapu Koko is going to go for an electric type attack onto my Celesteela, but my opponent knows that I have the Garchomp in the back. So my opponent, rather than going for the Thunderbolt on that slot, predicts me to switch in my Garchomp. Now I'm in a position where I can't attack freely with my Celesteela, and leaving it in is too much of a risk, and if I lose my Celesteela at this point, I'm going to lose the game. So I need to switch my Garchomp in. So I know that the Dazzling Gleam is coming from the Tapu Koko regardless. I switch my Garchomp in, take a Dazzling Gleam, and the Tapu Koko still has to get 2 Dazzling Gleams off to pick up the KO. Now it will have taken life or damage in this time frame, but I have a 50% chance to pick up the KO with my Earthquake, as long as I'm not intimidated. So that's another thing. You know, you've got to take these things into account. But as long as I'm not intimidated in this situation, I will be able to pick up the KO, because that Life Orb damage is going to take it. The 2 rounds of Life Orb damage is going to put it into 1-hit KO range from the Earthquake, which is super nice. So that was one calculation. Now another calculation that I wanted to make sure I was surviving was Tapu Kokos have been seen recently to run Twinkle Tackle. So that was something I definitely wanted to make sure I was surviving as well, which you can see here. I can quite easily take a Twinkle Tackle, and for most of the time I'm going to be picking up a KO with the Earthquake as well. So that was quite nice. I'm just going to quickly flick, because I have made some notes just so I can kind of remember, because I've not done the tabs along the top. Twinkle Tackle. I'm sure the other thing was a Blizzard from a Ninetales. Yeah, so we're able to take a Blizzard from a Ninetales nicely. Not that you're going to be doing a lot in return, but you have things like Poison Jab, Fire Fang. They're going to take it over 50%. And at least break the sash on it for like something else to come in at a later stage, and hopefully pick up the KO on it. That was a nice calc, and we've covered the Pheromosa. Now the EV spread itself is a little bit strange, but I kind of built it specifically with Porygon 2 in mind. So I could have put majority of EVs in health, and then kind of reduced how much special defense I needed, and put a bit more in defense, and then stacked a bit more in attack. But because Porygon 2, when it's out on the field against a Garchomp, normally Garchomp's defensive stat is a lot higher. So that means it's going to get the special attack boost automatically. And because it doesn't account for the Assault Vest, it goes off the actual physical stats before any item boosts or defense stat boosts or anything like that. So it just takes the base stats for when that Pokemon is switched in, negating any Assault Vest or anything like that. So the one thing I wanted to do is make sure that I had a higher special defensive stat than my defensive stat. So Porygon 2, if it was out on the field when I had my Garchomp out and it got the download boost, it would always get the download boost in attack, in its physical attack stat. So the Ice Beam wouldn't be a one-hit kill, because if we do this with it, so yeah, it changes the calculation significantly. Whereas if we do that, it's changing it again in our favour, really. We're not going to be able to take on a Porygon 2 one-on-one, but I thought this is one calculation that I wanted to kind of make sure that I could kind of calculate in to the team, just to prevent those that you don't really want to be boosted, especially if it's got the Ball Beam combo. You can start doing a lot of work with that side of it. And I do have Snarl and I do have Intimidate to kind of cycle on the Porygon 2s if I do face them, but you know, sometimes you can't switch around so much and you're kind of locked into a situation. So at least this way I'd be able to get some attacks off with my Pokemon, and Porygon 2 isn't hitting as hard. So that was one reason. I did like this spread here. It did a very good job when I was using it. The speed stat that I've got is just enough to outspeed max speed base 95s. So if we go to things like Jolly Arcanine and Max Speed Timid Tapu Leles. We're outspeeding it by 1 point. I didn't really see much leg room in kind of going max speed Garchomp. We haven't got Dragon Claw on there, so we're not going to be taking other Garchomps on one-on-one. And I wanted to be able to outspeed max speed Arcanines primarily because I don't have Tapu Fini on the team, so I can't freely just maneuver around with Garchomp and not worry about Will-O-Wisps. At least this way I'll be able to get Garchomp in and get an Earthquake off before a potential Will-O-Wisp, so at least I get that initial big damage onto Arcanine before it does kind of potentially get a Will-O-Wisp onto me, and that was predominantly one of the reasons. Also, it's nice to be able to know that outside of Scarf Tapu Lele, we are going to be outspeeding max speed Tapu Leles, and I'll just take that Z move off, and we know that we can take a Life Orbed. That was another calc as well, Life Orb Moonblast from Tapu Lele. So that's what the set does. Garchomp worked extremely well in practice, and I really like the Assault Vest variant. So feel free to try it out. I obviously as well, guys, I'll put the Pastebin of this team in the description below for this video, so you can check that out and try it out if you want, or just take bits from it that you feel that you might like to try. So we'll move on to our next Pokemon, our Weather Abuser of the team, Gigalith. So with Gigalith, there was a few calcs that I wanted to make sure I was picking up. As you can see on your screen, here is one of them. So Araquanid is one Pokemon that is very threatening to Gigalith, especially outside of Trick Room, because it will be outspeeding me, and it does have that super high-powered Water Bubble Liquidation attack that can do some big damage. So the HP and defensive EVs allow me to always survive a liquidation from a just neutral, so not intimidated Araquanid, and that allows me to get a Stone Edge off, and pending that it hits, pick up a KO, and obviously pending no intimidates as well. So that was quite a nice calculation. That was the main one for the defensive side of things. You have others alongside that. The offensive calculations that I wanted to make sure I was hitting and that I was missing with the Rock Slide were. So Stone Edge was one of them. Continental Crush, -1 Continental Crush on an Arcanine, 252 Arcanine, just your standard Arcanine. It always guarantees 1-hit KO with the Continental Crush, which is super nice. Gyarados was another Pokemon that I wanted to make sure that I was picking up the KO on with the Continental Crush. And I think, yeah, so Stone Edge doesn't just by itself, but you need the Continental Crush there. So you're always going to be able to pick up the KO on to Gyarados, etc. Yeah, the other defensive EVs, I think, that we always make sure we survive. We always survive a Leaf Blade from a Kartana with this spread, which is pretty nice. Although we're not going to be doing a lot back, but the Stone Edge isn't too bad. Damage, anyway, Continental Crush is a bit of a waste if you're using it on a Kartana, but at least you can kind of go into a turn if there is a Kartana on the field, that you can survive the Leaf Blade, even if you're in a Trick Room, just to make sure you're getting a hit off on its partnering Pokemon. You know that as long as it doesn't crit, that you're going to be able to survive that Leaf Blade and kind of get off another turn in the Trick Room. So that's just something to keep in mind. Tapu Koko is always another threat. We can't pick up the KO with Earthquake. Stone Edge though, Continental Crush will easily be able to pick up the KO there. And then you've got the... So if Tapu Koko is in an electric terrain, we've got the Sand Up, and it is Life Orbed. It's only got a 15.6% chance to 2-hit KO, which is pretty good. You'll take that most of the time, and you're easily going to be able to 2-hit KO back with an Earthquake or Stone Edge. So there are a few things there. Let us move on to the Porygon 2. So everyone basically knows that Porygon 2 is a monstrous, just offensive tank, little duck thing. One thing that I wanted to make sure I shifted from your standard Porygon 2, I shifted a lot of defensive EVs from special defense into physical defense, and this was pretty much just to kind of cover against Pheromosa, because it was quite wary of Pheromosa. It could potentially lead, and I don't have anything that can outspeed it. I'm not running Scarf on anything, and I've got nothing in my team that is faster than it. So I needed to make sure that I was at least surviving a high jump kick, and in the worst case scenario, if it was running the all-out pummeling, then I could always make sure that I could get an Intimidate off onto it, so -1 all-out pummeling from a positive attack nature 252 EV invested Pheromosa I was always going to survive, and I could always guarantee that I'll get that Trick Room off, which was pretty nice. So that was one of the main calcs there. The rest outside of that, I just dumped special attack there and just the rest in special defense, just to kind of bulk it out a bit. It did come in handy, the defensive EVs, on a few occasions where we were able to take a Tectonic Rage from a Garchomp, and then a combination of something else from like a Tapu or something in its terrain, just to make sure you get the Trick Room off. And once you get the Trick Room off, you can start recovering your damage back. So that was the main thing. But we can ensure that even your sashed Pheromosas can't KO with the high jump kick, and after that you can guarantee that you'll be able to hopefully have something next to it that can take care of the Pheromosa, or start recovering off that damage. But that was the Porygon 2. Let's move on to the Tapu Lele. So Tapu Lele is a bit of a strange Pokemon. Like I said and outlined at the start of the video, Tapu Lele has very, very good special attack and a base 130 special attack, so it's going to be hitting super hard. It's also got the psychic terrain to boost those psychic type moves to make it even stronger, which is ridiculous. And you've got the Z move to stack with that, so it's literally one of the best, it's the most powerful Tapu outside on the special side of the spectrum. So that's one massive appeal to Tapu Lele. It's got decent special defense. Its downsides for me are definitely its defensive stat and its speed, coupled with its weaknesses as well, type weaknesses. So a few things that the first thing that like I said earlier, was that when I started using Tapu Lele, it was immediately obvious that I needed Intimidate support with it. Now that could have been a combination of different Pokemon. You've got Gyarados, which can be a very good Intimidate user. You've got Crocodile, which again is a very good Intimidate user. But I just feel Arcanine kind of fits a lot better with Tapu Lele and covers a lot of its weaknesses a lot better. And also kind of supports it with the Snarl as well. So that's kind of why I opted for the Arcanine. With the EV spread anyway onto Tapu Lele, I did want to give it, the thing is as well, because it's got that middling speed, you either need to go max speed, which means you can't really invest too much in defenses, or you go min speed and you can really bulk it out, but then you're quite prone to being double targeted, and you know, you're kind of putting yourself more in the hands of RNG when you do that sort of thing, because luck can take a bad turn and you have no Tapu Lele left to do anything with in the match. So that's kind of why I opted in this scenario to go a bit more speedy with my Tapu Lele. This speed stat in particular, I outspeed Modest, let's just pull it up, Modest max speed circuitries. So that was one Pokemon that I wanted to make sure I was outspeeding. So we outspeeded by 1 point. Gyarados was another Pokemon. Obviously we outspeed the Adamant variants, but a lot of jolly Gyarados will go 136, 135, just to get the jump after the Dragon Dance. So it's either to speed tie with them or just make sure that we're kind of with speed time at the very worst case scenario. The Shattered Psyche again was something that I wanted to make sure we're always going to pick up the KO on to things like Gyarados and things like Arcanine as well, with the Shattered Psyche in Psychic Terrain. So we need to make sure we've got the Psychic Terrain up. But I mean, you can go as bulky as, let's go Careful, Arcanine, 252 HP, 196 special defense, and even with that 132 special attack investment, modest nature, Shattered Psyche in Psychic Terrain is always picking a K up onto that Arcanine. And you think about the Arcanine, if it is that bulky, it's not got a lot of EVs left to put into speed, so you can kind of figure out that if it's going to be that bulky of an Arcanine, you're always going to be outspeeding it. So it's nice to kind of know that if you can, especially for best of 3 games and things like that, it gives you a bit of knowledge going into that, knowing that you've got that calc. If you can set that position up with the Psychic Terrain, that you'll be able to get rid of it, get rid of that big threat. And it's especially helpful for things like Celesteela that you have that would be otherwise threatened by the Arcanine. And the Intimidate and just shutting down that side of things. So that was quite nice. What else have I got for Tapu Lele? We needed to make sure that obviously Kartana, we could survive -1 Smart Strike. So that was quite a nice calculation there. Just knowing that, and obviously a Shattered Psyche will pick up the KO there. I think even a Psychic picks up a KO on 2 or 4 HP. Kartana in Psychic Terrain, which is super nice. What else have we got here? Minimum requirements with the Tapu Lele here, where I didn't want to go any lower than being able to always guarantee a Moonblast 1-hit KO onto a Garchomp, just a standard Garchomp. So Moonblast always picking up the KO, and also Tapu Koko. So I wasn't using the Shattered Psyche in this situation. I just wanted to make sure when the Psychic Terrain was up and I was facing down against the Tapu Koko, I could always make sure that I got the KO with the Psychic on you, just your regular Life Orb builds. And in return as well, the special investment that I've got here with the HP EV number, it makes a Life Orb Tapu Koko's Thunderbolt pretty much a 3-hit KO on Tapu Lele, which is super nice. So it's got like a 3.5% chance to 2-hit KO. So very minimal chance to actually 2-hit KO my Tapu Lele, meaning in a 1-on-1 situation that we're more than likely to beat Tapu Koko. So that was just another little thing to that I wanted to make sure that we were doing. Also, as well, I didn't know how popular Gengar was going to become, or if we saw any Gengars at all. But just to make sure with this investment, the Gengar Sludge Bomb is always a 2-hit KO. You'd have to be careful of, obviously, Life Orb sets. But the thing is with this team, I ran it in the International Challenge, which is a best of 1 setting. But I do feel like this team is more set up for best of 3 play. And once you kind of start discovering what your opponent's running and the items and the builds and things of certain Pokemon and how they're kind of playing their game, and this team works a lot better in being able to kind of play around that and switch around and you know, set up win conditions that way. So that was the Tapu Lele, and obviously it does huge damage to pretty much everything. You're threatening a lot of big KOs. As long as you can guarantee the Psychic Terrain being up, Shattered Psyche is going to be doing a lot of damage to whatever it's hitting. And then we'll move on to the last Pokemon. So Celesteela, like I said earlier, I opted for Flamethrower over Substitute. It gives me better options against opposing Celesteelas, Metagross, Kartana particularly. Because the one thing with the team is if you look right through the team, you've got Tapu Lele threatened heavily by Kartana, Garchomp pretty much will get beat 1-on-1 by Kartana, and depending on its build, because that Leaf Blade has a potential to obviously pick up a KO with a critical hit, so that's a worst case scenario there. You've got the Gigalith, again, Leaf Blade can do very devastating damage. Porygon 2 can handle it to a certain extent, but AV Kartana becomes a bit of an issue, especially if you haven't got a special attack boost. You're not going to be doing too much damage to it, and it does threaten. If it started to get the boosts up as well, it can threaten heavily with the Sacred Sword. So they're 4 of the 6 Pokemon that are heavily threatened by Kartana. And if Arcanine goes down, you've not got any real options outside of Arcanine to really come in and threaten the Kartana straight off the bat, and that's where Celesteela can come in. It's another option alongside Arcanine to come in, and with Flamethrower you can pretty much always guarantee that you're going to be able to beat it one-on-one in most situations. So that was predominantly the one reason that kind of swayed me into making that decision. For EV spreads, I've went with an Adamant Nature. I've got 36 attack EVs in there, and that was just to pretty much guarantee the one-hit KO with Heavy Slam on your standard Tapu Lele. So that was for that predominantly. If we go to your standard Assault Vest Kartana, we can see that the Flamethrower it's got like an 87.5% chance to pick up the KO, and that's on an Assault Vest Kartana, so that is like ridiculous. So you know one-on-one you're pretty much able to beat it. If we go to regular Kartana, obviously that doubles, but then you look at the damage calcs that it's doing in return to the Celesteela. So we've got 252 HP just to maximise that health stat. We've got the 92 defense EVs and 124 special defense EVs. So we just got the 36 attack EVs just to give it that number, so I am getting the attack boost if I pick up any KOs, which just makes Celesteela a lot more threatening if you kind of start combining those KOs, and you're putting out a lot more damage on things than you were previous to that. So Celesteela, let's have a look what we've got here. So just things to kind of consider when I don't know why I was putting Thundurus in there. Let's put Tapu Koko in there. This is the Pokemon. So if we can ensure that we've got the Psychic Terrain up, we know that a Life Orb Thunderbolt isn't going to be picking up the KO onto Celesteela. And if we've got a Beast Boost, we have a 50% chance with that attack EV spread to KO just your regular Tapu Koko, which is huge, because this could be a situation later on in the game. Tapu Koko may have had some Life Orb damage already. If you've got a boost and you know you can get the you can negate the electric terrain, then you kind of get in a position where you're able to beat a Tapu Koko one-on-one almost, you know. So that's something that you can kind of try and maneuver yourself into in certain situations. Obviously, you're not going to want to take on Celesteela, Tapu Koko one-on-one with your Celesteela. It's not the best idea, but you know, in really like worst case scenarios, if that's a board position you can kind of get yourself into, then you've got the percentage in your favour in that regard. So that's just one little thing to think of. Obviously, with Celesteela as well, you've got its ground immunity, so it's a nice switch into things like Garchomp, Crocodile, Mudsdale, so on and so on. And then you've got the Leech Seed to really kind of just stall out those types of Pokemon if you need to, set up Leech Seed and kind of go from there. And that's about it really with Celesteela that I've got kind of marked down, and I think that kind of rounds up the team, to be honest. I don't really know what else to kind of cover there. So basically what I found with the team was it operated really nice. The one thing that I was surprised about with the team was I struggled a lot more than I originally thought I would against Porygon 2 and Arachnoid combinations, because it's very difficult to get yourself into a situation where they haven't got the Porygon 2 out and dictating. So you need to really, it's a mind game if you've got your Porygon 2 out and they've got their Porygon 2 out, and you're in a Trick Room and they can potentially reverse the Trick Room. The mind games are horrible in that situation, because you need to keep the Trick Room up for your Gigalith to be able to attack the Arachnoid. If you're not in a Trick Room, then you're potentially heavily threatened, potentially getting KO'd, and not able to get your attacks off first. And it's kind of like whoever gets the speed control in the mind game right will win. and I found those matches very difficult. So that's something I would definitely look at trying to approach probably differently in team selection in future, or maybe implement something else into the team to kind of take that that matchup to a different scenario, to be honest. Other than that, Mudsdale wasn't exactly ideal to play against either. I kind of had to rely on either stalling out a Trick Room if it got set up and then being able to kind of power down on it with Tapu Lele. I had to ensure that I got a Will-O-Wisp off onto it with the Arcanine to kind of stop its damage output, and then rely on also Tapu Lele, Celesteela to either Leech Seed it and kind of stall it out that way, which wasn't a lot of fun. But I don't have many options for Mudsdale outside of Tapu Lele. And obviously you've got Porygon with Ice Beam, but it's not always the most conventional thing when Mudsdale sometimes have close combat, which do big damage, and they're obviously going to underspeed you in a Trick Room. So there are situations where you can get in and it can cause a lot of problems. And the other thing, that's what I was going to touch on, the moveset changes. So I would, if I was making any changes for the future, I would change Stone Edge for Rock Slide, because Stone Edge is it's a great move power-wise, it's brilliant, but the amount of times it missed when I've been in matches in crucial turns, its accuracy is so shaky, I would not suggest it. If you're using it primarily, if you're using it alongside Rock Slide, that's fair enough. And then you can take advantage of the higher powered Continental Crush Z move, but otherwise I would always kind of recommend Rock Slide. It's a lot more reliable, and the other thing is I would get rid of Heavy Slam. I never really used it at all. I originally had Wide Guard on Gigalith in that place, and I would probably go back to Wide Guard again. It just gives you better coverage against Garchomps, especially if you can kind of bait out the Tectonic Rage early in the match. You know later in the game that it can't do anything other than Earthquake. So you can kind of really just click the Wide Guard freely there. It also gives you a nice option against... sorry, I'll just get rid of this. That's super annoying. There we go. Just gives you another option against Tapu Finis as well when they're Muddy Watering and stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely opt for that moveset. You're not losing a lot of power with the Continental Crush. In some situations it might make a little difference, but overall I think just the sacrifice for more accuracy of a lesser accurate move, I would definitely go with that overall. But on a whole, the team I felt performed pretty nicely, was solid. I managed to ladder on the Showdown ladder up to about 1850, so it peaked around there, so it's not too bad at all. And that again is in a best of one situation. But I do feel like, as I've said prior to this in this video, that I feel like it's a best of three team. But it might be something I come back to at a later stage of the metagame. It was nice to try out some stuff and strategies that I haven't tried this season so far, like the Porygon 2 and the Gigalith, and obviously that bulky Arcanine, and a different Celesteela and Tapu Lele as well. So they were very nice things to try out, and I don't feel the team is terrible at all. It's just got a few holes in it, and struggles against a few things. Like we've seen in the episodes, a few episodes that we've played the Mimikyu Snorlax, that's extremely difficult to kind of get your momentum and get positioning with. But there is win conditions in there, it's just how you play it. But we will leave it there, guys. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope this has been some benefit to you, to show how I've kind of put this team together and where I've took inspiration from. And guys, just go out and do the same thing I do, you know, kind of come to the same conclusions about, you know, you look at Pokemon, what are their weaknesses, how can I cover that, how can I, and then cover that, and then go from there, and then try and kind of simulate battle situations in your head when you're putting a team together, you know, have that situation where you're in a terrible situation, or in just a regular situation where you know you're going to get KO'd by something, and think, what can I do to kind of fix that problem, or what can I take in here to make that problem where it's not a problem anymore, and all of the odds are in my favour. So like the Garchomp, putting an Assault Vest on it against that Life Orb, Tapu Koko, Dazzling Gleam, that switches the whole system. So in a normal situation, if you switch in the Garchomp on a Dazzling Gleam, you're straight away under pressure of getting KO'd from that next Dazzling Gleam, and you can't outspeed the Tapu Koko. But in this situation, I know I flipped the tables, and now the odds are in my favour, so my opponent has to react to that, and then I can play off that and start gaining momentum that way. So these are the little things that I want you guys to kind of take away from this team, and it's kind of creating a reaction and creating surprise as well that will get you opportunities to kind of take matches and just kind of improve your odds slightly. So we'll wrap things up there, guys. This has been a pleasure. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed the episode, as always, please leave a like on the video. If you've got any questions about the team, just shoot me in the comment section below, and I will get back to you. Like I said, I will put the Pastebin of the team in the description, so if you want to go and try it out, if you want to take any particular Pokemon and just pull it out and put it into your team, go ahead with it, and I wish you the best of luck with it. Like I say, if you've got any questions about anything, just come back to me, guys, and ask away. But until Monday, I think I'm going to leave things as they are till now. And we will have a brand new team on the School of Hard Knocks on Monday. So super excited for that. Tested it out, and it seems to be doing all right. So touch wood, it works out well, and we get some good matches for you guys next week. Go and check out the Melbourne Australian International, which is taking place this weekend. That will be streamed, so keep an eye out for the links and things. If I can't find a link, I've said in my other videos, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can check that out. It'll be pretty awesome. Other than that though, guys, you go away and enjoy the rest of your weekend. So until then, I will see you later. So take care of yourselves, guys, and I will, see you next week. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.